Today's topic is following Jesus requires a willingness to change. When do you think people experience the highest level of stress? Earlier, when you experience the highest level of stress in your life? Alex, what? He doesn't listen to you. Oh, I'm so sorry. And Alex, must you experience the highest level stress? Yeah, thank you for your response. Let's see. In the front, we can see the reason, the stress inventory. This journal, open 100 reasons, but we capture only 10 reasons. At first, death of spouse. Yeah, the 100 score. Death of spouse. Do you have a spouse? Not yet. Yeah, don't worry about this. And second, divorce. Yeah, divorce is second. The 73 point. The marital separation from mate. 65. Detention in jail or other institution. 63. Death of a close family member, 63. A major personal injury or illness, 53. Yeah, we can agree, right? We agree from so far. But number 7, marriage. Marriage also the high level stress. Oh, does it make sense? Yeah, and 8, being fired at work. Yeah. And number 9, the marital reconciliation with mate. Does it make sense? Reconciliation mate also high level stress. And number 10, retirement from work. So we can find one thing. The people what this study reveals is a profound truth about human nature. What mean? Whether it's good or bad, we perceive the change itself as stress. Every people don't want to be shaken his life. Good news, whether good or bad news. And because of that, most of us deep down really don't like it when our lives are disrupted by changes. Joyce, what's your favorite food? Chicken. Oh, chicken. Yeah, if somebody loves chicken, but if 우리 조이스가 만약에 lay down in the bed, suddenly her mom say, Joyce, come down, eat chicken. I prepare so many chicken. In this case, she said, stress. I love chicken, but I don't want to move. I don't want to be shaken my life. Even if my mom prepared chicken. If you are boring, if you spend boring time, I'm so boring. I need something too special. Suddenly, Sean called me. Pastor Choi, what are you doing? If you want 같이 놀래? You wanna play? Sean, yeah, thank you, but stress. I'm so boring, but I don't want to be moved. I want to be moved. Yeah, coming here. Hi. Yeah, hi. Come on in. Yeah, so like this, every people don't want to be shaken or want to be changed. In today's text, we meet a man who successfully managed to shield himself from life-altering change. He did everything he could to protect his comfort zone. That man is Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. Jesus had been arrested on trumped-up charges engineered by the Jewish leader, and because of this, he was brought to stand trial before Governor Pilate. Now, Pilate knew perfectly well that Jesus was completely innocent. Book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 11, Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you real King of Israel?" And Jesus said, "Yes, I am." So he knew. And he saw right through the Jewish religious leader and knew they had handed Jesus over out of sheer envy and jealousy. So Pilate tried to orchestrate a way out. He wanted to release Jesus by using a custom where the governor would set one prisoner free during the Passover feast. In today's term, it was basically like a presidential pardon. But the chief priests, the elders, and the massive crowd gathered there began to shout. They didn't want Jesus. Instead, they demanded the release of a notorious criminal named Barabbas. The crowd said, "We don't want Jesus. Instead of him, we want to Barabbas." While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, a messenger arrived from his wife, and the messenger brought an urgent warning. Pilate's wife had just suffered through a gut-wrenching dream because of Jesus. And she begged her husband have nothing to do with that innocent man. This was likely the tipping point that made Pilate try even harder to release Jesus. Pilate had tried to release Jesus so far, but the chief priests and the elders were working the crowd, stirring them up to demand Barabbas and call for Jesus' execution. Hearing their shout, Pilate cried out, "Why? What crime has he committed?" And right here, we see the tragic weakness of Pilate. Think about it. He was a Roman citizen, Roman person, and appointed as the governor by the Roman Empire itself. He has power. He has authority. He had ultimate authority. He knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jesus was innocent. He knew, and he saw. And he has power. He can release Jesus. He could, but he didn't. He knew the religious leaders were driven by pure envy and fake evidence. On top of that, his own wife sent the unprecedented urgent warning confirming Jesus' innocence. Pilate had every reason, every ounce of authority, and the moral obligation to take a stand. He could have followed his conscience, rebuked the crowd, and deployed his soldier to disperse the riot crowd. But instead of standing his ground, Pilate buckled. He let himself be completely swayed and manipulated by the crowd. Why do you think he did that? Why do you think? Why he did? What held him back? In Matthew chapter 27, verse 24, it said that when Pilate saw he was getting nowhere, but that a riot crowd was starting instead, he took water and washed his hand. But if you look at the parallel passage in John chapter 19, verse 12 and 13, it revealed the real trigger. Pilate was still looking for a way to release Jesus, but the crowd shouted in John chapter 19, verse 12, say, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar." Hearing this, Pilate finally gave it and handed Jesus over. Before, Pilate had tried to release Jesus, but after listening this praise, if you let him go, you are no friend of Caesar. Pilate changed it. He handed Jesus a trial. The Dr. Sang-Gyu Lee, a renowned church historian in Korea, explained that back then, friend of Caesar wasn't just a casual praise. It was an official, highly coveted political title. This is the title, political title, friend of Caesar. It was reserved only for those who held the absolute trust of the emperor, granting them direct access to emperor without going through the rigorous protocols. This means if you want to go White House for meeting President Trump, you can meet him directly. No STA, no 이거 검사하는 거, no check. Without check, you can go White House and meet President anytime. If a team has the title friend of Caesar, team anytime, he can go to White House and meet President Trump. Like this, Pontius Pilate has the political title, friend of Caesar. This means he is the man who is trusted by the Pontius, the emperor. So he can go to meet emperor anytime. So naturally holding this title means you possessed immense political backing and massive leverage. So when the chief priest and the crowd dropped that line, it instantly ended Pilate's dilemma. This is the source. It was a source of power and authority. So Pilate don't want to drop this title. So the moment he heard those words, he made his choice. He immediately handed Jesus over to be crucified. The deciding factor of Pilate to hand Jesus over to be crucified was simple. He didn't want to lose his as a friend of Caesar, this title, because of Jesus. He flat out rejected the disruption and change that Jesus would bring into his world. Before, if he think I can protect myself and I can help him. So he tried. But crowd said, if you take Jesus, your life will be shaken. So Pilate don't want to be shaken his life because of Jesus. Like this, the follow Jesus meaning is the shaken life. So many people think, oh, I can follow Jesus. I want to keep my life and add up just gospel as appendix. I don't want to give him my life. Just I want to keep my life and I want to take gospel also. Jesus, I can follow you, Jesus, but don't touch my life. Jesus, I want to follow you. I can follow you, but don't touch the dating life. Jesus, I can follow you, but don't touch the view of money or the philosophy, my thinking, my habit, and my sinful nature. Don't touch. I want to keep my life. So 그러면 I will follow you. This is mostly the Christian thinking, right? Pilate also, he did. I want to take the title, and I want to release him. 그런데 finally the crowd said, if you want to take Jesus, you have to forgive. You have to give up your title. So Pilate has dilemma, and he finally decide, hand out Jesus. Following Jesus is a revolution. Believing in Jesus is not just adding an appendix or an add-on to your existing life. It is a total overhaul that flips your entire life upside down. When Jesus came to Israel and preached the kingdom of God, the tax collector, the sinner, and prostitute embraced the gospel and followed him immediately. Why? They have nothing. They have nothing to lose. So many people saying, you are a sinner because you are a tax collector. You cannot enter the kingdom of God. God abandoned you. So that's why you are a tax collector, prostitute, and a sinner. They think, I have nothing to lose. Then suddenly Jesus came to world and he said, you can be saved. Follow me. Oh, really, Jesus? Can I be saved? Yeah, I want to follow you, Jesus. But the religious leader, like Nicodemus, he have lots to keep something in his life. So Nicodemus calculate, if I follow Jesus, how many things will be lost. So Nicodemus, very difficult to follow Jesus. The religious leader, they couldn't follow Jesus. It was so much easier for the broken and the outcast to surrender to Jesus. Why? Because they had nothing to lose. They had no social status. They were despised by everyone. They were told they'd never make it into heaven. They had no education, no money, no reputation. So when Jesus showed up and announced that anyone who believes in Jesus can enter the kingdom of God, of course, they dropped everything to follow him. But the religious leader, they were different. They had too much to lose. They had too many things to protect. They had the less respect of the people, high education, and wealth. To follow Jesus, the cost was just too high. They were too invested in what they already owned. And that was exactly the tragedy of Pilate. So like this, the title friend of Caesar is not wrong. This is very good point, good things, good benefit. If you can, please take this title, friend of Caesar. But if you face to confliction between the friend of Caesar and the following Jesus, you have to decide, abandon title for following Jesus. What about you? What is that friend of Caesar title? 갑자기 이렇게 I like that picture. What about you? What is that friend of Caesar title in your life right now that is keeping you from fully following Jesus? What is the title, friend of Caesar, in your life? What is the obstacle? What is the problem for following Jesus? What is the title that friend of Caesar in your life? Is it the fleeting pleasure of this world? Is it a sinful nature, sinful habit deeply rooted in your lifestyle? Is it a boyfriend or girlfriend who doesn't share your faith? Or is it simply the comfort of having your life under your own control? Pilate chose that route. He handed Jesus over, and sure, he might have lived a little longer in comfort and security as a friend of Caesar, but he completely missed out on the true joy of being a disciple of Jesus, child of God. I know that following Jesus can feel incredibly uncomfortable at first. It feels like it's going to completely shake up and disrupt the familiar, the predictable life you've built. But despite that fear, when you make the radical decision to follow Jesus, Jesus will give you a joy and a purpose that can only be found in a relationship with Jesus. I have listened to countless testimonies throughout my life, and let me tell you, I have never once met a single person who say they regret their decision to follow Jesus. Never. In my life, so many people testimonied. I listened, but never ever, no one said, I regret to following Jesus. If I go back to my life in the past, I don't want to believe Jesus. No one told like this. This world lasts for 80 years at best, but life in the kingdom of God is for eternity. I urge you today, make following Jesus the absolute top priority of your life. Do not ever look back at what you gave up for Him and think it was a waste. So that's why the following Jesus is not easy, very difficult. Because if the gospel is the appendix, so we can add on my life, 그러면 very easy. But following Jesus means to give Him my life, whole my life. I allow to this shake my life. So that's why very difficult to follow Jesus. So Jesus said, the book of Luke 9:23 say, if you want to follow Jesus, you have to take up cross and follow Jesus. Fan and disciple, what is the difference between them? This. We cannot find fan and disciple, but the moment of decision, the fan, they deny Jesus. Jesus, I'm so sorry. For now, I think this is more important. Friend of Caesar, this title in my life. So, Jesus, I can go to church every Sunday, but don't touch anymore. I can give you 1 hour, one day, but don't require more time. Jesus, I can give you my time. I can give you my money. I can give you my heart, just 1 or 2, but don't touch anymore. I want to follow you, but also I want to keep my life. But this is the crowd lifestyle, fan lifestyle. The disciple lifestyle is different. When Jesus called Matthew, Matthew, follow me. Matthew abandoned his job and followed Jesus. And Jesus said, Peter, follow me. And Peter abandoned his sheep and net and family. He followed Jesus. Like this, disciple means change his life and give him his whole life.